Welcome to Chrissy's Books. I am Chrissy. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this week. So for this week, I read a really exciting book. I don't even know if you can see that, but I'll probably stick a picture somewhere. How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. So this book has been on my list for so long, and I had first heard of Ibram X. Kendi back in 2016 when he won the Nonfiction National Book Award Prize for his really great book, which I haven't read yet, called Stamped from the Beginning, about the origins of racism in the US. I really need to read that book. How to Be an Anti-Racist came out in the summer of 2019, last year. As soon as that book came out, it went right to the top of my list. Fast forward 1 year later, summer of 2020, following the tragic killing of George Floyd and the protests that went on, this book jumped right to #1 on pretty much all the best-selling lists out there, and it even stayed on the New York Times bestsellers nonfiction hardcover list for 18 weeks. And with everything that's been going on in the US with the systemic racism resurgence and all the protests and just all the injustice that's been happening, this book was hailed as the book to read by all major book review outlets such as Time, NPR, Washington Post, Publishers Weekly. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So with all that, let's jump into the synopsis for this great book. In Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, he questions and reshapes the conversations about racial justice in America. He gears and liberates us towards new ways of thinking about racism, ourselves, and also one another. He asks us to take a closer look at how an anti-racist world would look like and what we can do as individual people to actively play a role in building it. In this autobiography of Kendi's life, he weaves together engrossing and immersive subjects such as history, law, science, and blends in his own life experiences and his own awakening into anti-racism. This book is for anyone who wants to play a more active role in how to become an anti-racist and how to take the next steps into contributing to a more just and equitable society. So that is the synopsis for this amazing book. Stay tuned, because when I come back, I'm going to give you my review of this book and also my rating for How to Be an Anti-Racist. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you guys really liked my book reviews, or if you like my book review, give me a huge thumbs up and subscribe. Why not? I'm a really fun person and I read literally everything. So let's jump into my actual review for this book. Fun fact, so I actually listened to the audiobook for How to Be an Anti-Racist, and I'm usually like really not an audiobook kind of, you know, digital book person at all. I definitely prefer print books, but I really wanted to listen to a book. I was in the mood to listen to this book, so I thought, okay, I'm just gonna give it a shot. So yeah, it definitely hit that spot. How to Be an Anti-Racist was a really excellent read, given the amount of turmoil that the Black community has faced in 2020. This book seriously just really hit all the pivotal points, and it was really timely given the current political climate in the US. There's a lot in this book that feels quite electric to our current time period that we are in socially, politically, and also economically. So just to jump right into a really awesome opening quote from this really great book, I just thought it was a really great opening to this book. So in chapter 1, Ibram X. Kendi defines what a racist is and what an anti-racist is. Racist, one who is supporting a racist policy through their action or inaction, or expressing a racist idea. Anti-racist, one who is supporting an anti-racist policy through their actions or expressing an anti-racist idea. And he basically tells us or shows us how to become an anti-racist and clearly explains what an anti-racist is and just really delves into that definition. This book was a mix of almost a textbook, sort of meshed with his own life experiences, and it's also his own awakening into becoming an anti-racist himself, and how he also dealt with racism throughout his life. And how he was also a racist towards his own Black community as well. I just thought that was really fascinating and very honest and humble for him to admit in this book. I really found this book to be quite riveting and eye-opening, and it made me question my own sort of thinking in racism in general, and also made me question how I would behave in certain situations or how I can better myself and actively take a role in becoming an anti-racist. You really learn a lot in this book, and I really loved learning about how racist policies came to be, and it really takes us right back to the beginning of how these systems were built in government structures, where the term race comes from. I thought that was just absolutely fascinating to know how it was born, and just where these ideas are placed in our society with races and stereotypes. Also, another thing that I just really loved about this book is that even though it did feel like a textbook at times, I really did like that it was an autobiography on his own life experiences. And I really liked learning about Kendi's upbringing, and it made me sort of relate to a lot of what he was saying, because you could relate to that as a person of color. And also, you don't have to be a person of color. I just thought it was really great that he sort of shows us, he takes us through this journey in his life where he's going through all these different phases and learning about race, and I just thought that was a really great part of the book. And it just really makes you think of ways to face racism placed upon us by society, and how you can self-reflect on becoming an anti-racist. The reason why I gave this book a very high rating was because I personally got a lot out of this book. Seeing as I did listen to the audiobook, my one negative comment is that sometimes I did find his voice to be a little bit, it was actually narrated by Ibram Kendi. I don't know if I mentioned that. His voice, I don't know, I really hate to say it, but it was just like, I found it a bit grating sometimes, but then sometimes I really enjoyed it because it was so passionate. So I don't know, I had like a love-hate relationship with the audiobook. And I think that this is one of those books that people would either really love or they just won't really like it that much, because there are other books out there that I've read that are very similar to it. And one of my ultimate favorite books is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Lodge. I love that book. It's so great. It's quite similar to this, but it's to do with British sort of subjects and racism. I will post my review somewhere below, probably in the description box. There are books that I sort of found a little bit more I guess because it was more of like she was more in your face about, you know, race and all of that, and this sort of felt like we're following his life, and it was a blend of his life and research. But I really did like this book, and I really think that everyone should read it. And with all that said, without giving away too many spoilers, because I hate a spoiler, I will stop talking about the book, and I'm going to give you my rating. So for this book, I gave How to Be an Anti-Racist a rating of 9 out of 10. Yes, so close. I love this book. It was so good. This book had very, very minimal flaws. I learned so much. I just thought it was a really excellent read, and I thought it was really enjoyable as well, and I would highly, highly recommend everyone to read this book. If I could describe How to Be an Anti-Racist book into 4 words, they would be essential. I just think it's essential that everybody should read this book. Black, white, whatever race you are, you just learn so much, and I think you get a lot personally out of this book. My second word would be compelling, because I was really gripped pretty much throughout this entire book, and I kept looking forward to what the next chapter would be, or what the title, or what the subject matter would be. It really keeps your attention, and was very, very engaging. The third word would be insightful. Like I said, I learned so much in this book. I just really appreciated all the history and all the research that Kendi put into this book. And you can tell that he has been through quite a lot, and it was just, I just really thought it was really great to learn about him. And I also found a lot of the things that he talked about that I never had really known about. to do with race and where race comes from. I just thought it was really fascinating. So definitely insightful. And my last word is humble, because, you know, you are learning about his life, and I feel like he would just like, because I listened to the audiobook, I feel like he was just telling us like his life story, and there was something quite like just real and raw about the book. Yeah, so humble is my fourth word. If you want to take a more active role in trying to be more self-aware and to actively play a role in being an anti-racist and learn about systemic ideals in our society, and to just know what being an anti-racist means, definitely read this book. And with all that said, let's jump into my song pick, because you know, I love music. There are right now a lot of amazing songs out there, given 2020 and everything that's happened this year, that have to do with sort of race, systemic racism and injustice. I mean, there's so many songs, but there was one song in particular that really stood out to me, and I just really love the lyrics of this song. It almost sounds like poetry. It was just really excellent. So my song pick for this book is a song called Black and Ready by Jords. Jords is a UK rapper, like spoken word artist. Listen to this song, it's really great, it's really wonderful, and I just really feel like it speaks to Ibram Kendi's life, and also just everything about to do with race and just being black in general. Yeah, it's a great song. Even though it is based in the UK, it's very relevant to this book. So thank you so much for staying tuned, and I really hope you enjoyed my video. Hit that subscribe button, and have a great week. I'll see you guys next week.